There are several occasions throughout the year worth celebrating for your average player of video games. There are the various Steam sales that see price drops by the dozens, thus allowing you to buy games in bulk. There's Gamescom, a conference that's fairly awesome and allows your average person to play the games on hand. PlayStation Experience and the Game Awards have become big deals in their own right, even without all the high-profile reveals and announcements. But one such event serves as the quintessential celebration of video games. It's that time of the year where the biggest names come together to show off the biggest games. It's where the release calendar for the year is pretty much set, which months we look forward to what and how to budget our time and money accordingly. Naturally, we're talking about the Electronic Entertainment Expo, beginning this year on June 10th with EA Play and running for an entire week. Bethesda, Microsoft, Sony, Ubisoft, and even Devolver Digital will try to wow us, and as much as it's about marketing, E3 2017 is the place to learn about the biggest upcoming titles from your favorite studios. Rather than walk in and try to consume everything, we decided to choose the top 25 games to look out for at E3 2017. Some of these aren't even confirmed to be appearing, others have had a wealth of information and footage showcased. E3 will just be the place to solidify their position. Project Scorpio may be the biggest reveal to look forward to, but in terms of games, here are the 25 titles we're most excited to see. The Crew 2. Raise your hand if you played The Crew. Now raise your hand if you still play The Crew. Ubisoft's MMO racing title had some decent enough ideas, but server issues, tons of bugs, and bland gameplay brought it down by several notches. Wild Run provided improvements, but it was still the same old style of gameplay. The Crew 2 is interesting because it could potentially change that. Then again, it could just follow the same pattern with some minor tweaks. Has enough time passed for Ubisoft to revamp the formula? Regardless, The Crew 2 is one of the company's major releases until the end of the fiscal year. That gives us some degree of hope for its quality. Ni no Kuni 2, The Revenant Kingdom. If there's one game that we haven't seen nearly enough of lately, it's Ni no Kuni 2, The Revenant Kingdom. Re-emerging last year with the revelation that it would also arrive on PC, Ni no Kuni 2 sees players trying to reclaim their kingdom after a coup. As a follow-up to arguably one of the greatest JRPGs of all time, and with a reported release later this year, Ni no Kuni 2 The Revenant Kingdom definitely has us chomping at the bit for new information. Gameplay footage wouldn't hurt either. Sea of Thieves. Microsoft and Rare have been doing their jobs by hyping up Sea of Thieves. I'll be honest, the premise and ensuing gameplay didn't really grab me, especially since there hasn't been a cohesive narrative or missions showcased yet. That's why I'm interested to see what Microsoft showcases. What is Sea of Thieves about? What will occupy the majority of your time? Is it really just for those of us with annoying friends who never shut up? And will that be enough? Whatever the case may be, Microsoft needs some big-name Xbox One titles out there, and fast. Spider-Man PS4. While not necessarily confirmed for E3 2017, Insomniac's Spider-Man PS4 has been sort of confirmed to release later this year. That was by a Marvel executive though, so take it with a grain of salt. Anyway, if it does appear, this will be our first real look at the gameplay, movement, and the open world. What's Spidey's deal in this self-contained story anyway? With how well Insomniac handled its last open world venture, Sunset Overdrive, we have high hopes from Spider-Man PS4. And even if we get none of the above, an official name and cinematic trailer wouldn't be a bad compromise. Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Monolith Productions has practically bombarded us with gameplay and information prior to the release of Middle-earth: Shadow of War, which makes sense. The game is out in roughly 3 months. What does that leave for E3 aside from stellar new story gameplay though? Maybe a teaser or two of the expansions? That's what happens when you showcase so much beforehand. Not that we're complaining, but what could Monolith possibly have saved for E3 besides a new trailer or two? The mystery alone still has us on the edge of our seats, so it'll have to do. Final Fantasy VII Remake. Forget about how good it looks, how faithful it is, or whether it's coming to other platforms. Yes, we'd like to know all of those things, but more importantly, when is that first episode releasing? Sure, the gameplay trailer, however short it may be, will look pretty nice. But when is the first episode of the Final Fantasy VII Remake coming out? How long will it be? Square Enix has done enough delaying with its major releases over the years. It's time for some more solid information. New Need for Speed. Electronic Arts done goofed with the previous Need for Speed, both fundamentally and by making it always online. That won't be the case with this year's iteration, which will have a completely offline single-player experience, plus the ability to pause. Of course, that's only one major issue with the previous game. How will the new Need for Speed address others like the lame storytelling and decidedly less than compelling mechanics? Once again, E3 is the place to find out. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Here's a title that hasn't been explicitly confirmed to be appearing. We can still hope though, especially with how successful the Xenoblade Chronicles series has been for Nintendo. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 isn't even pegged for release this year, so it's possible that Nintendo reveals a new trailer for it, provides more information in a future Nintendo Direct, and releases it early next year. Either way, we need more Xenoblade Chronicles 2 information, and E3 is the best possible place to expect it, especially when it comes to how much larger the world will be or why the main character has such horrible fashion sense. Super Mario Odyssey. Much like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild last year, Super Mario Odyssey will be the major showcase title for Nintendo at E3. Though it won't be the only game present, this will be our first extensive look at the open-world 3D platformer and how it's evolved past its predecessors. Granted, good old solid Mario gameplay would also be enough to tide us over, and with how well Nintendo has been doing, there's no reason to believe that Super Mario Odyssey will be anything less than amazing for the Nintendo Switch. Far Cry 5. Maybe it's Wild West, and maybe it isn't. Regardless, Far Cry 5 has to be something new, especially since Ubisoft is pushing that kind of agenda with this year's releases. Far Cry Primal is outlandish, but still the same old fundamentals. Far Cry 4 didn't really change all that much from the third game aside from the setting. Could Far Cry 5 finally shake things up? Hopefully we see enough of the single player, beyond just a reveal trailer, to know. Days Gone. Is this Sony's next big exclusive for the PS4? Probably not, but Days Gone still looks incredibly impressive. This E3, we want to see more than just the zombie hordes. We want to see how they work in the context of the larger open world. The story missions are important, but how a typical experience in Days Gone would work is what we're really after. A release later this year or in early 2018 wouldn't be so bad either. Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. Naughty Dog doesn't have to go out of its way to showcase more footage of Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. For a 10-hour standalone expansion, there's no reason why it couldn't throw out a few minutes of high-octane gameplay to kick off Sony's presser. Then again, much as we'd like that to happen, we're guessing Naughty Dog will have an even bigger showcase on hand with The Last of Us Part 2. The gaming world went ballistic at Sony's PlayStation experience when The Last of Us Part 2 was confirmed. If the game is anywhere close to releasing in 2018, then we can't imagine there not being gameplay at E3 2017. Even if it's just a new trailer to showcase more of the story and Ellie's bloodthirsty tendencies, we expect The Last of Us Part 2 to be a standout title at Sony's conference. How crazy would it be to see it arrive this year, though? Destiny 2. With the sheer scope of the May 18th reveal, from the open world and PvE storyline to the PvP and introduction of group finding features, Bungie pretty much nailed its debut of Destiny 2. The thought that more information will be offered at E3, even if it's just the announcement of the PlayStation exclusive content, is enticing. As they say, Bungie has our interest, now let's see if they can keep our attention, especially with many fans already critical of how big the game will actually be. BioWare's next game. So we know that BioWare Edmonton, aka the studio behind Dragon Age Inquisition and Mass Effect's original trilogy, are working on a new IP. Codenamed Dylan, it apparently takes elements from Destiny and The Division. Then again, we've also been seeing teases for what seems to be a new Dragon Age. Rumors indicate a reveal at E3 2017. What could it be? We honestly have no idea, and that's kind of exciting. Hopefully it makes for a good game down the line as well. Red Dead Redemption 2. Rockstar has shared next to nothing about Red Dead Redemption 2 since the initial announcement. You know, aside from its usual financial reports that indicate it would have a strong online component, just like Grand Theft Auto Online. We're still hyped for the game though, but will it still release this fall, especially with so many other top-tier games? E3 2017 seems like the right place to at least unveil a release date. Then again, it would also be the best place for an information blowout. Forza Motorsport 7. You're either a huge Forza fan or not. Thankfully, it's not that hard to be one, but you either enjoy the realism-fueled escapades of Forza Motorsport or prefer the more casual, adrenaline-pumping party atmosphere of Forza Horizon. Forza Motorsport 7 is all but confirmed for an E3 2017 reveal, and we expect Microsoft to go off again on how authentic it is, the number of cars, and whatnot. The point is that this is going to be a Forza Motorsport game. Unless there are big changes, that's the only reason to really look forward to it, which isn't all that bad, honestly. Assassin's Creed Origins. Normally we'd rag on Ubisoft for giving us another Assassin's Creed title that's safe, doesn't break boundaries, and ultimately does nothing to progress the story. Assassin's Creed Origins is different. It's been in development longer, is rumored to be 3 times as big as Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and goes back to the very beginning of the entire story. Towers are apparently gone, the world is apparently Skyrim-esque in size, and everything seems different. Whether that amounts to something positive or not, we'll see a lot more at E3. Kingdom Hearts 3. Look, there has to be new information for Kingdom Hearts 3. There just has to be. At this rate, we'd take anything, but something tells us that Square Enix may actually showcase some new gameplay this year. E3 2015 was the last time we saw any new gameplay footage, and story developments, well, let's put aside those convoluted teases for now and just get some solid new details. A release date would be a good place to start, for instance. What say, Square Enix? Then again, it's more than likely it will confirm even more Disney properties for the game, so be prepared for partial disappointment. Death Stranding. Kojima Productions' Death Stranding has a lot of variables surrounding it. Thus far, we've seen trailers with in-engine cutscenes. In fact, the Decima engine itself was only confirmed in December 2016, so you have to wonder how much of the game has actually been developed. Whether it's in a playable state or not, don't put it past Kojima to not showcase it on the biggest stage of the year. Maybe the often teased, not quite confirmed rumor of Stephanie Justin being involved will finally come true. It wouldn't be all that bad if Kojima actually showed us how the gameplay would work somehow, but you can't win them all. Keep the hope alive until June 12th. God of War. We saw the debut trailer last year, and it didn't take long for SCE Santa Monica's latest God of War to rack up the views. God of War has changed significantly, offering less linear navigation and more RPG mechanics. At the same time, the combat looks to be as visceral and engaging as ever. The storytelling with Kratos now in a Norse world and having a son will also offer us a side of the Spartan that we've never seen before. Given how one of the game's voice actors teased a 2018 release, God of War has to be at E3 2017, and we cannot wait. State of Decay 2. To get really hyped about Undead Lab's State of Decay 2, it's important to understand what makes it so cool. Take an open world full of survivors, side missions, interesting locations, and foraging mechanics. Combine it with a base management system where morale and resource management actually play a part. Now throw in some satisfying combat and vehicles. That was the original in a nutshell, and while it might not be for everyone, the thought of State of Decay 2 building on it with 4-player co-op, 3 huge maps, and the ability to shift entire bases and more is incredibly tantalizing. Crackdown 3. Crackdown 3 made an amazing impact at Gamescom 2015, but it, along with the cloud-based tech behind its gameplay, hasn't really been seen since then. We're hoping E3 is where Microsoft finally showcases the campaign and announces its beta for the destruction-fueled multiplayer. There isn't a whole lot we know about the game as is, so really anything would be good at this point, especially if it arrives late in 2017. A neat little story mission set in real time would still be the best way to go about it, but that's just our opinion. Star Wars Battlefront 2. EA won't have to work hard to convince anyone to play Star Wars Battlefront 2. That being said, we expect a campaign mission to be the focus at EA Play, along with some multiplayer footage. How much time will be given to both of these things is unsure, but hey, what better occasion is there to show off all that new content you supposedly have? A closed beta should also be announced for erstwhile players who sign up, and it will likely go live when EA Play is over. For us, it's all about that single player, and we hope DICE and Motive don't disappoint. Call of Duty World War II. Activision has already announced that it will be debuting the multiplayer component of Call of Duty World War II at E3 2017. That means the new War game mode could be showcased along with a closer look at the new social hubs. Expect footage from a single player mission as the company has always done over the years and bask in the World War II nostalgia. Is it too much to ask from Normandy? We feel like they'd save it for later. There's not much more to expect from Call of Duty World War II, aside from how the lack of health regeneration and AI teammates will work. Thankfully, that and the multiplayer are just enough to keep us interested. That'll be it for this video. If you like what we're doing, please go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.